Welcome to Musings from a Flustered Duck, crowdfunding medical care. I'm Flustered Duck, and my musing today is whether crowdfunding has a democratising effect. I'm going to consider this by referencing the growing phenomenon of crowdfunding for medical care in Australia. I'm going to start with a definition. Crowdfunding, as described by Michael Young and Ethan Scheinberg, is a financing method characterised by pooling together a large number of smaller contributions to support a specific initiative. This idea has a long history, particularly in medical fields. An example is the Queen Victoria Hospital for Women in Melbourne, which was founded in 1896. It was funded by women donating to the Shilling Fund. This appeal asked every Victorian woman to send a shilling to fund a hospital for women by women as a way of honouring Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. The modern version of crowdfunding has been facilitated by the rise of the internet and social media platforms, especially websites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Kiva and GoFundMe, which are devoted to crowdfunding endeavours. The basic methods of crowdfunding are usually divided into 4 types. Equity, where shares of a startup company are sold. Rewards-based, where backers receive the product being funded or some other reward in return for their donation. Debt, where a small amount of money is forwarded with the expectation that it will be paid back over time. And charity, where money is donated without any expectation of material return. Equity and rewards-based sites are particularly used in the development of innovative products and arts projects. Debt-based forms of crowdfunding, also known as microlending, are usually aimed at the developers of small businesses unable to access traditional forms of finance. Charitable crowdfunding focuses on social causes and is, according to the Australian site Chuffed, for like-minded people who want to be part of taking action to make the world better. Crowdfunding can be seen as having a democratising effect by spreading wealth and opportunities across all sectors of society, particularly in promotion of innovation and entrepreneurship. The rise of crowdfunding in healthcare in countries with universal healthcare systems, such as Australia, Canada and the UK, is a concern, however. As a recent editorial in the Lancet Oncology pointed out, the reliance on charities and use of crowdfunding represent failures in publicly funded healthcare systems. Charities have been used to plug gaps in healthcare provisions for decades, particularly in cancer care, and have provided supports for individuals in the form of home care, travel costs, unfunded, often experimental treatment for rare cancers, and palliative care as well as research funding. What is particularly concerning now is that more and more patients are turning to crowdfunding to fund what could be considered standard medical care. A good way to demonstrate this is to look on the Australian crowdfunding site Chuffed. Chuffed states that it helps you take action on issues you care about. The site offers 9 broad categories of social campaigns for the potential donor to explore. The 5th of these is health and medical. Clicking on this category produces a page with a highlighted fund, then 3 categories: most successful, gaining momentum, and newest. Navigating to Australian health and medical produces a range of causes seeking funding. These range from community projects like funding for medical equipment or clinics to pleas for personal funding. It is these latter which I find the most problematic, as they show disturbing lacks in Australia's healthcare provision. There are many personal appeals set up here, but there are 2 in particular that I want to showcase. The first fund I want to highlight has been created by the Family Centre in Tweeds Head South, New South Wales. As the webpage states, it's a common theme these days that pensioners are doing it tough, waiting patiently on lists for lots of government services. And this particular fund has been set up to supply a set of partial dentures for, as it says, a Family Centre volunteer and Tweed pensioner who has been waiting patiently on the government dental list for over 2 years for partial dentures. The dentures required are expected to cost $3,500, which is beyond the ability of the pensioner to pay. As of the time of recording, only $440 has been raised after 2 months. The campaign has about a fortnight left to run. My second case looks like it will be successful. It features a very cute little girl and is appealing for financial support to supply a range of services. The little girl was born with a major medical problem, which seems to have been fully treated and supported by publicly funded healthcare. The child is struggling with ongoing neurological problems, specifically speech delay, and it is for these lesser issues that crowdfunding is requested. Most of the services are available through public funding, but there are, like the first case, lengthy waiting lists, and the delay in treatment will have an impact on the child's future development, so her family is asking for money to start treatment in a timely fashion. The campaign, started only a fortnight ago, is asking for $5,000, and with another fortnight to run, currently stands at over $3,800, so it looks like the target will be reached. The two issues in common in these cases are often raised by researchers: the popularity contest style of the appeal and systemic problems in publicly funded healthcare. In these cases, long waiting lists. The second campaign also highlights a third issue with medical crowdfunding. The editorial already quoted describes this issue as patients taking healthcare into their own hands and seeking treatments that might not only be unavailable due to cost, but also absence of clinical benefit. In the list of services for which funding is being sought, there are standard medical services such as speech pathology, audiology, and appointments with medical specialists, as well as services from the alternative medical spectrum such as kinesiology and probiotic dietary supplements. These services, despite research, have never been proven to have any clinical benefit beyond that of placebo. This is a huge topic, and it is tempting to go on about the problems with crowdfunding medical care. The question of whether crowdfunding has a democratising effect seems to me to depend on how that crowdfunding is used. In healthcare, I don't think crowdfunding is having a democratising effect. I think it is highlighting systemic failures in publicly funded healthcare. The editorial I have mentioned several times already is titled Mind the Gap, and that title highlights this exact issue. There appears to be a growing gap in healthcare provision that crowdfunding is being used to plug. I'd like to end with the final few lines of the editorial as it brings this exact issue into complete focus. Charity and crowdfunding are meant to be a last resort, rather than common avenues to access new treatments or to underwrite health systems. Moreover, publicly funded healthcare does not mean free care. The public are paying stakeholders in a large service project, and as such are entitled to an efficient, transparent, and effective value-based system. Thank you for your time.